After transmigrating into the novel S female lead, the system told me to save the depressed male lead. I've actually read this book before. The male lead had a white moonlight in his heart after they parted. He entered a business marriage with me, yet remained lovesick for his white moonlight throughout our marriage, perpetually melancholic. How utterly unpleasant. It's better to keep some distance between people get too close, and you start noticing each other's flaws. When I read about it before, it didn't seem this disgusting. Ethan Grant walked into the bedroom with sleeping pills, and I ignored him. Lately he has been having these inexplicable emotional breakdowns. Choosing to die quietly, without tormenting me, is actually quite considerate. I wiped my hands and planned to make myself some lunch. In less than 5 minutes, thick smoke began billowing from the kitchen. The oil in the pan caught fire, triggering the smoke alarm to shriek. Ethan rushed out to put out the fire, while gagging. The kitchen was left pitch black, and my face was covered in soot as I wiped away tears, crying. "It's all your fault. If only you'd cooked for me on time." "How could I be hurt?" I said, quickly checking my eyelashes. "Whether real or fake, they're all burned off. I can't go on living." I pulled open my eyelid to show him my upper lid originally had about 150 lashes, and the lower lid had 55. Now they're all gone. "Pay me back," I yelled while pounding his chest. Ethan kept retreating from my blows, probably realizing I was genuinely furious. He pulled me into his arms and comforted me, saying, "I'll compensate you, I promise." I swore. I 1T step into the kitchen again. "From now on I'll cook." He grabbed a rag and the vacuum cleaner to clean the kitchen. The range hood needed fixing, so Ethan fetched the toolbox from the garage. While busy in the kitchen, he even ordered me Uber Eats. I ate while watching him fix things. No wonder this guy is rich. He really knows how to live well. Living in a big house and cleaning it yourself, fixing things when they break. Good too. So, here's the question. Ethan was about to commit suicide. What happens to the money he saved? This enormous problem was solved effortlessly when it met me. Though my salary is meager, my spending power knows no bounds. I informed Ethan I'm going shopping this afternoon. Ethan had just finished repairing the range hood. His artist's hands were now covered in dust. The toolbox wasn't light. When he lifted it, veins bulged along his arm, snaking upward until disappearing into the gray sweater he bought who knows how many years ago. He nodded in agreement, clearly not understanding what I meant. "You're coming with me." Ethan leisurely washed his hands, applying soap. "I don't like going out, and I don't like being around people who wear the same clothes every day. As for this sweater, Ethan bought 10 identical ones. It's practically his default skin." Ethan turned around and bumped right into my arms. I reached out to touch his chest, causing him to arch backward until his waist pressed against the kitchen counter. Nowhere left to retreat. Behind those black framed glasses, his eyes closed in despair. He swallowed hard. What was he thinking? "This outfit doesn't suit you." His voice came out unexpectedly hoarse when he spoke again. I ran my fingers carefully over the fabric covering his chest. She complained, "None of these are pure cashmere. Shall we go buy some new ones?" Ethan's ears turned red when he lowered his head. His black tousled hair covered his eyes, hiding his expression. But unexpectedly, he said okay. When he agreed, Ethan didn't even know how he came to say yes. He inexplicably consented. 3 turns out he is not as much of a homebody as I imagined. While examining my nails, I asked him, "Since you're so good at drawing, can you do women's makeup too?" "Don't know, never tried." I pouted. "But you must know how to pick the perfect lipstick shade for me." Ethan, Haven T tried that. Either Haven T tried this, Haven T tried that. What exactly did your ex-girlfriend teach you? I turned to look at the scenery outside the window. After a long while, Ethan coughed. I didn't turn around. He poked me with his finger, but I still didn't turn. "I have never been in love." "What?" My mouth moved faster than my brain. "What about you and Jessica then?" I immediately covered my mouth. Damn this mouth. Why did I have to say the name of his white moonlight while he was driving? What if this guy loses his mind and drives off the road? It wouldn't matter if he died, but if I died, it'd be over for me. I have a crush on her. Are you insane? For the sake of my personal safety, I racked my brains to come up with a comforting phrase. "So you're suffering from unrequited love." That's okay, I've been there too. Exactly. When facing someone pitiful, you have to make yourself sound just as pitiful. Ethan glanced at me, but said nothing. I had no experience in this matter and felt somewhat guilty. I felt like a job applicant faking their work history in front of him. Fortunately, the car soon came to a stop, and I hurriedly got out to ease the awkwardness. "This shopping mall is quite substantial." Ethan nodded, locking the car. "Let us go." For finding clothes that suited Ethan was easy. Just pick according to the style of a refined aesthetic corporate elite. Tie, shirt, suit, hoodie, scarf. We also need to buy a sweater. Ethan tugged at my sleeve. "We have some at home." "That one doesn't have the same texture," Ethan replied, trailing behind me with numerous shopping bags in hand. I picked the items. He paid the bills. Teamwork makes the dream work. After selecting outfits for him, I chose even more sets for myself. The sales assistant kindly asked us to leave our address since we couldn't make the purchase. The day had been perfect until we got rear-ended on our way home. The driver behind crashed into our car, a classic rear-end collision. Ethan got out to take photos and call the police. The at-fault driver kept honking furiously. His already rough face looked downright terrifying when angry. "What are you filming for here? S200, let us settle this privately." Though Ethan was introverted, he wasn't someone to be pushed around. He quoted honestly, "It'll cost at least 1,000. The moment the driver heard 1,000, he immediately exploded. "You're fucking ripping me off with that pathetic look of yours. 200 is already me being generous." The driver sat in the car, reaching out to grab Ethan by the collar and yanking him inside. "Sure, whatever you say." The driver felt like punching cotton. His string of curses only made him pull harder. I could see Ethan was about to be dragged in. Outrageous. My freshly manicured hand slammed hard on his car hood. Get out. The voice sounded somewhat intimidating, but upon seeing me in person, the driver flashed a disdainful expression. Did I say anything wrong? Your husband is just a hahe. With the driver's shocked and bewildered gaze following, I yanked his upper body right out the car window. Apologized to him. The driver, sizing up the situation, swiftly abandoned his previous aggressive tone and smoothly transitioned into both an apology and a refund in one seamless motion. On the way back, I could feel Ethan's admiring gaze, even with my eyes closed. You're amazing, just like a real man, I said, giving him a hearty slap on the back. Having strength makes you like a man. Is being like a man something good? Ethan carefully reconsidered his words, and taking into account my phone case design, came up with a sentence guaranteed to make me happy. You're amazing. You're such a badass woman. Right now I loved hearing people call me badass. I rolled my wrist. I've got strength and tricks to spare. Wait, what? I grabbed Ethan, who was carrying bags of all sizes. My nail got scratched. It must have happened during the argument with the driver. Earlier, the once iris pattern nail surface had turned foggy, looking completely out of place next to the other 9 perfectly beautiful nails. I walked into Ethan's studio with my middle finger raised. What should I do? Seeing my raised middle finger, Ethan thought for a moment before suddenly having an epiphany. I walked to the adjacent dressing room, found the jewelry box on top of the wardrobe, and planned to select the most satisfying ring I had designed from it. You don't need to look, I brought it. Ethan turned around and saw me pulling out a full set of nail art tools. Just use this brush to repaint a flower on it for me. I took out the nail art reference picture and had already obediently sat down. Ethan glanced at his unfinished oil painting, then turned to look at the woman holding up her finger. Alright, give me a moment. When he returned, Ethan had already washed his hands and put on a mask. Wow, Mr. Grant, quite professional of you. Why do you call me Mr. Grant? He asked, looking up. Because you resemble. Never mind, just hurry up and do it under my direction. Ethan polished the nail piece, adjusted the color, and began painting. It's a bit dark. He rubbed his eyes. The light was too dim, the nail surface too small, and his eyes felt strained. I wasn't he completely oblivious. I took out my phone and lit it up for him. We were so close that I could even smell the soap fragrance from Ethan's collar. Wait a minute, Ethan, hadn't he had time to change out of his old sweater yet? We were standing quite close, and my eyes had a tendency to wander. Pink, what? Ethan looked up. He glanced at the floral pattern on his nails in confusion. They were clearly purple. I shook my head to indicate I was fine, and moved closer to provide him with light. But I was no longer the same person as before. My eyes couldn't help but wander. Following the 2 pink points downward, there was a firm waist and abdomen with clearly defined abdominal muscles that tapered straight down before disappearing into his waistband. The beautiful scenery was abruptly cut off by a black belt. When I looked up again, Ethan was staring straight at me. You have a nice figure, sis. Didn't he look for nothing? Sis will compliment you and provide emotional value. Shortly after, I was kicked out of the studio. For several days afterward, Ethan never wore that sweater again. 5. The weather has turned cold recently, with snowflakes drifting outside. Many children are playing with snow by the roadside. I was drawn over too. Can you give me a little snowball? The child's nose was red from the cold, and seeing me reach out generously, let me pinch one. Another one. I extended my left hand again. The child had no choice but to pinch another one for me. Give me one. A little girl popped out from behind me. I hadn't noticed when she arrived, and now she too reached out her hand. Alright then, I'll give it to you, but don't you go giving it to Leo. No way, the little girl promised without hesitation, but the moment she got the snowball duck, she immediately handed it to a little boy standing nearby. I burst out laughing. When I turned back, the kid next to me was crying. I don't want to play anymore. I want to go home and do my homework. I crouched down to comfort him. Come on, this is nothing. You're so young. Even if you spend 10 years as a backup, you'd only be 18 by then. Back then you were in your prime, full of energy and resourcefulness. You didn't have to settle for being just one person's backup option. You could be many people's backup, of course. I'd never say that to a child. Stop crying, I'll get you some candy. I told the child to wait outside while I went to fetch it. Just then I spotted Ethan by the second floor window. He tied a rope to the ceiling, standing on a stool, ready to hang himself. Oh my god, I sprinted upstairs like an Olympic runner, passing Ethan and yanking the curtains shut in one swift motion. There are kids playing outside in the snow. What if you traumatize them? Ethan clearly didn't expect me to confront him. He stood awkwardly on the stool. I moved the stool away to grab some candy from the top shelf of the cupboard. After taking it, I put the stool back where it belonged. I'll leave you to it. I took 2 steps before turning back to warn him, but think carefully. There are lots of children playing in the snow outside. If you want to die, that's your business, but don't ruin their childhood memories. The little boy waited obediently for me downstairs, and I stuffed his pockets full. The child had clearly witnessed the scene earlier. With an innocent look, he asked me, "What was that uncle doing with the rope?" "Oh, he was practicing aerial yoga." Not wanting to go back and deal with Ethan's melodrama, I simply squatted by the roadside and built a snowman with the kid. I didn't go home until the child's mother came to call him for dinner, and even then, I was reluctant to leave. Ethan seemed like he wanted to say something when he saw me come in, but hesitated. I didn't feel like engaging with him, and our Cold War continued, returning us to the state we were in when I first transmigrated here. We ignored each other, maintaining a polite distance, that is, until one day when I came back quite late, turned on the light, and saw Ethan sitting stiffly on the sofa. I still pretended not to see him, and walked straight to the bedroom. "Ava, what have you been up to lately?" I lied casually, "Just shopping around." Ethan moved closer, sniffing near my ear. "You smell like alcohol." Had a little. I gestured with my fingers. "I cooked dinner for you tonight, but you didn't eat. Instead you went out drinking." Ethan's righteous tone didn't sound at all like a husband who just caught his wife dining out. "It feels more like catching a wife cheating," Ethan said. "If you want me to cook, then you shouldn't be eating someone else's dishes." What are you talking about? I lost my temper too. I just went to a restaurant to eat and ordered 2 dishes. What's wrong with that? Absolutely not. You're so irresponsible. Ethan's tone grew sharper, and I couldn't hold back the urge to bring up old grievances. No sense of responsibility. Rage burned away reason, leaving nothing concealed. I said, so you think casually committing suicide at home, without considering whether others would be terrified, counts as having public morality? I said, and you think secretly writing a will shows an abundance of responsibility? I said, our marriage is just a facade. You didn't even mention me once in your will. Does that make you a decent husband? I said, you donated all the money without leaving a single penny for me. What does that prove? That you're charitable? Ethan couldn't speak, his eyes reddening as tears threatened to fall. Now it looked like I was the one bullying him. I sighed. Picking up my newly bought clothes, I walked into the bedroom. You only know how to love abstract people. He couldn't see any specific person, nor could he see himself or me. People are all the same, whether before or after time traveling, inevitably plagued by the same flaws. Before my transmigration, I was born into a family where my mother clearly favored my younger brother. My mother, who had toiled for half her life, had the habit of keeping a diary. One day, while cleaning her room, I saw the diary lying open on her desk. I don't know what I was thinking at the time. I peeked at her diary, only to discover a result that wasn't entirely unexpected, but heartbreaking enough. In a thick diary, not a single page was about me. Mother could only see my younger brother, blind to both herself and me. Wiping away my tears, I thought this must be some form of karma. The system swapped me into a different world, and now even my husband can't see me. Whatever, I took 2 melatonin pills and slept until afternoon the next day. Full makeup done, hair styled, miniskirt on, lipstick and purse in hand. This quinine tea, wasting energy on self-doubt. Blame others when things go wrong. Step outside when feeling blue. Ethan heard me opening the door and unusually came out of his studio. He acted as if he'd forgotten yesterday's incident and even poured me a glass of water. Have some water before you leave. Too unusual. I worried he might have drugged it and hesitated to drink. Ethan understood, took a sip himself. Seeing no reaction from him, I drank too. Ethan, I've put in antibiotics. Can't go out for drinks. Might as well go shopping. I turned the doorknob to leave, but Ethan grabbed me again. What? Nothing, I replied impatiently, then let go. Seeing that I was still determined to leave, Ethan seemed to steel himself before finally blurting out 3 words. I'm sorry. This actually left me somewhat at a loss. Why are you suddenly apologizing to me? Well, alright then, I forgive you. Would you like to go shopping with me? Ethan nodded and went back inside to get his wallet. His excited yet obedient demeanor was the spitting image of a golden retriever reincarnated. Though with this kind of personality, he was probably a golden retriever who'd been abandoned before. 6. Ethan changed tactics. Previously, he was a gentle, melancholic artist. He now seemed like a paranoid and wicked chef, insisting you eat his meals no matter where you were. I was singing at a karaoke bar with my bestie when Ethan showed up with a lunchbox demanding I eat. I was sleeping in my bedroom when Ethan woke me up to make me eat. Even worse, one time I was partying at a nightclub when Ethan came up beside me and whispered in my ear, Ava, dinner's ready. I don't know what strategy he's using, but it's definitely working. The intervals between 3 daily meals are at most 6 hours. Just getting a manicure takes me 3.5 hours plus driving and parking. Every outing feels rushed. I don't feel like going anywhere now. My 3 daily meals are all meticulously scheduled. When mealtime comes, Ethan immediately appears with prepared dishes. I was utterly annoyed, but Ethan beamed with joy, looking at you with eager anticipation. He'd put on a pitiful, disappointed expression. If you didn't eat, who could resist that? I vented about it privately on social media, and netizens all said I didn't know how lucky I was. Interestingly, many people asked for tutorials in the comments. They even gave me the title of dog taming master. Most netizens were just teasing and weren't professional. I carefully timed it and privately consulted a psychologist. After hearing my explanation, the doctor showed a satisfied expression. He said this was a survival behavior showing plans and expectations for the future. He can prepare your menu for the upcoming week, which means he'll be alive and well for the next 7 days. After all, he needs to cook for you. The doctor joked, what a wonderful arrangement. Let him take care of you. Over time his illness will heal, and you'll have trained yourself a good husband. Before I even reached home, the aroma of Ethan's cooking already greeted me. Recalling the doctor's words, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The male lead truly no longer wished to die, but he had transformed from a painter into a cook. I shook my head and had just sat down when Ethan emerged carrying dishes. In good spirits, he said, just whipped up a few simple dishes. When he sat across from me, we finally had a calm conversation. After finishing the meal, I pondered and still felt I ought to thank him. Thank you, Ethan. The figure washing dishes paused briefly before responding casually. What's there to thank? It's what a husband should do, but is being good to someone really an obligation? I never used to think this way. Whenever mom bought me new clothes or study materials, there was always a reason. Either I'd been obedient and well-behaved, or my good grades made it a worthwhile investment. Can someone still be cared for and loved without having to prove their worth? Or is it just out of duty that he takes care of me because we're married? I slipped behind Ethan and tentatively asked, if I weren't your wife, would you still cook for me? Ethan replied quickly, no, why not? He placed the washed dishes into the dishwasher, because I'm afraid your husband would beat me up. Me, ha 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 ha. I doubled over laughing and pressed further, but what if I'm not the original Eva? I picked up the cup, poured out the plain water, and filled it with cola. Like this, the cup hasn't changed, but what's inside has. Ethan put on a thoughtful expression, and I couldn't resist prompting him, do you prefer the current Eva, or the previous one? Now the answer came quickly this time too. Ethan said the Karaneva talks to me and eats the meals I cook. Ethan is eating together an important thing. He adjusted his glasses and spoke with great seriousness. Eating with someone you like is an extremely happy and heartwarming thing. He emphasized very important. I who said the male lead was cold and couldn't he flirt. It makes my heart blossom with joy. I could practically explode on the spot. 7. Ethan is actively striving to survive and I'm cooperating with him. After all, the system assigned me the task of saving Ethan, and now that he is moving in a positive direction, I have no reason not to support him. Every day Ethan paints, cleans, cooks, and when he has time he even touches up my manicure. I've already grown accustomed to having his busy figure around the house. When he said he was going on a business trip for an art exhibition and couldn't he take care of me, I still felt a bit uneasy. Ethan had prepared all the meal boxes in advance and stored them in the fridge. A whole week's worth of meals without repeating a single dish, just heat them up in the microwave and they're ready to eat. I complained that he was worrying too much. I could order takeout or eat out. Did he really think I'd starve? Ethan had stuck post-it notes on various appliances like the fridge, washing machine, and microwave. Finally, he told me not to go out at night. Only after I nodded in agreement did he leave with peace of mind. Ethan looked somewhat reluctant when he left. That expression would make anyone think it was a mother saying goodbye to a child who couldn't take care of themselves. But it was completely unnecessary because I had already bought a ticket to Santa Fe, just waiting to surprise him when the time came. At 8 p.m. Ethan called me. He was still busy with the art exhibition preparations. In the background I could hear Ethan's assistant Kevin discussing details with collaborators. Ethan chuckled as he stepped away. Had dinner yet? I answered truthfully yes. I went back to checking my work. After this brief exchange, Ethan returned to his exhibition tasks. I was scrolling through social media posts when perhaps phones really do eavesdrop. That very evening, I came across Ethan's post. Ethan doesn't update his social media posts frequently, and most of them are managed by his assistant, yet he has quite a few followers. Moreover, because of his distinctive looks, many female fans enjoy teasing him in the comments. His latest post featured a photo of Ethan posing with his signature work along with details about the event's theme, location, and schedule. The post is very official, but the comments are full of life. Fan Momo says, "Mr. Grant, you wouldn't want your wife to know, would you?" Ethan replies, "No." What Stick says, "Why do I a man have a reaction?" Ethan replies, "Art knows no gender." Chocolate Popsicle says, "Teacher, you have this decadent handsomeness." Ethan didn't respond, but many sisters below voiced their agreement. Like a sleeping husband in certain films. Teacher, remember this: what flows at night isn t necessarily tears, what enters the body isn t necessarily in 4, what bulges with veins isn t necessarily an arm, what stabs you in the back isn t necessarily a knife, what makes breathing difficult isn t necessarily asthma, what heats your entire body isn t necessarily a fever, what tears your heart with screams isn t necessarily injustice, what hits your face in the morning isn t necessarily sunlight. Wrong. It should be like this: the teacher's sweater gets torn by a junior intern who leans in to whisper, "Senior, you've been off your game lately, need some education." The comment section grew increasingly wild, with male fans gradually joining in the teasing. Though it seemed absurd, it made perfect sense when it came to Ethan. I was scrolling through the comments when suddenly the post got deleted. Not long after, Ethan updated with a new post, just the entrance of the art exhibition and his signature works with no face this time. I burst out laughing and texted Ethan, "Why do you delete it?" He typed for a long time before finally sending a message saying, "Ava, I'm not Japanese, nor have I ever filmed any weird videos. None of my ancestors were Japanese either. I'm straight, always have been, and you know the person I had a crush on before was also a girl." I replied with an I know emoji. If he weren't straight, he wouldn't have said that last line. Seeing my reply, the other person visibly relaxed and immediately sent me a hug emoji. My desire to see Ethan grew even stronger. I estimated it would be the last day of the art exhibition. I got off the plane carrying a small cake I'd made myself. Today was Ethan's birthday, the first one we celebrate together since I crossed over to this world. I suddenly went to see him. He'd surely be delighted. The driver dropped me off at the destination, and I quietly walked in, planning to surprise him. To my surprise, he wasn't in the room. "What's going on?" Assistant Kevin spotted me and immediately rushed over. "Mrs. Grant, what brings you here?" "Me, it's Ethan's birthday today. Where is he?" Kevin didn't know about Ethan and Jessica's relationship and didn't hold back. After the exhibition ended, a lady named Jessica came by. She said she was Mr. Grant's friend, and they went for coffee together. "Oh, I see. No wonder I could leave right after saving the male lead. Turns out I was just paving the way for someone else. How miserable. I am just a woman. Did I kill someone in my past life? Why is this happening to me?" After saving the male lead from the brink of death, I reunited him, now mentally healthy, with Jessica. Carrying the cake, I found myself unconsciously heading toward the cafe Kevin had mentioned. Jessica and Ethan were chatting, so I asked the waiter to seat me at the booth next to theirs. Their voices were too muffled for me to make out clearly. Only the occasional laugh reached my ears. Jessica was his first love, his muse. After all these years apart, I could only imagine how thrilled he must be. I looked at the ridiculously ugly cake I'd made on the table and instantly lost interest. The coffee had gone cold, and the people in the booth next to me had left. Jessica said, "It's only 11 o'clock now, perfect timing for lunch together." Ethan looked surprised and reflexively replied, "It's time. I need to go home and cook." Jessica grabbed Ethan's arm as he tried to leave her, laughter making her shoulders shake and her curly hair bounce with coquettish charm. Jessica withdrew her hand and patted his shoulder. "How can you go home to cook when you're out of town? Who taught you to be like this? Haraha." Used to working from home, it's like having a biological clock. These few days on a business trip have left me a bit disoriented. Ethan snapped back to reality looking somewhat embarrassed. My wife can't cook or clean. Her life skills are practically non-existent. I usually handle all that at home, so I've gotten used to it. When it's time, I just automatically think about making dinner. Wait a moment, I need to make a call. He walked over to my booth and had just stopped when my phone rang. I immediately hung up. That's strange. She should be at home right now. Ethan turned toward my booth, the soft lighting casting his facial contours onto the frosted glass partition. So nervous. Let us go, my treat. Jessica pulled him away, and only after I was sure they'd left did I emerge carrying that cake. Does Ethan think of me this way? Am I really that terrible? Having zero life skills, ISNT that just telling his white moonlight that I'm a giant baby. Fuming, I carried the cake out and tossed it onto the trash bin only to turn back after a few steps. I worked hard to make it. I'm not throwing it away. The girl who could stand up to that rude driver on the street 2 months ago is now completely heartbroken. Even holding the cake feels exhausting, as if it weighs 1,000 pounds. 9. I once watched a TV drama where I've forgotten the plot, but I still remember the female lead saying, "Love makes the timid brave," yet in my case, love has made me cowardly. I've known since crossing over that I'm not the one destined to stay with Ethan for life. I'm just a strategist. Even if I'm the female lead of this novel, I'll have to leave after completing Ethan's storyline. Even if Ethan is doing better now, it's not my achievement, nor have I done anything a female lead should do for him. It seems I might be the least responsible person in this household. The task is inexplicably about to be completed. Ethan's illness is almost cured, and there hasn't been any substantial progress in our relationship. Everything was just right, living selfishly and freely, leaving without any burdens. I carried the cake, planning to take it home with me. Just as I was about to board the plane, a shout came from behind. Ava, the empty airport terminal amplified the sound. I turned to see Ethan running toward me. "Ava, don't go," I cried as I ran towards him, only to be caught in Ethan's tight embrace, my feet lifting off the ground. Ethan spun me around in circles at the airport, just like in those cliché romantic comedies. It's cliché and unoriginal, but I still cried. "Why didn't you go eat?" Ethan wiped away my tears as he explained. "I rushed over the moment Kevin told me you were here. Who has time to eat? I was talking about you, and Jessica already turned her down. She went back to pick up her kid. Turns out he was already married with kids." I laughed at my own jealousy. Crying in his embrace, I said, "Happy birthday." "Ethan, I love you too." I burst into tears again. "You're so cheesy." I shoved the cake into his arms. "You're so corny. I'm done with you. Here, as your gift." Ethan took the gift with one hand and pulled me back with the other. 10. When I arrived at the exhibition hall, Kevin was still tidying up. "We'll help out together, and once everything's tidied up, we'll go eat." Ethan enjoys making scrapbooks, and with this art exhibition going smoothly, he has collected plenty of materials. For example, promotional posters for the exhibition, group photos, and the many small notes and suggestions left by visitors this time. They can all be pasted into a scrapbook for review. Most of the paintings were taken down and placed in the car, so I didn't even get a chance to see them in person. What a shame. Ethan ran over and asked me what's wrong. "Are you feeling down?" he whispered. "If you're hungry, you can grab some chocolate from my bag. Just 10 more minutes and we'll be done." I shook my head and pointed to the car. "I still wanted to see the paintings you made, but I came too late." He raised an eyebrow and handed me a piece of chocolate. "There's still a chance tonight." Tonight, a chance, hee hee. After having dinner with the exhibition staff, I walked into the hotel with excitement bubbling in my chest. Yes, one room secured. After entering, Ethan took off his coat and placed it shyly on the coat rack by the door, smiling bashfully. Yes, he is shy too, definitely. Then he asked me to wait in the living room with my eyes closed while he went to the bedroom to prepare something. My mind was flooded with waves of yellow. Ethan is so handsome and even cooks for me. I do recognize it, even if it were just for a second. What? Ethan poked my cheek. "Open your eyes." I saw Ethan still wearing the same clothes he had on when he first came in. Without even unbuttoning a single button, he lifted the canvas under my puzzled gaze. Amidst a sea of blooming flowers, a girl holding sunflowers occupied 2/3 of the frame. It was me. "This is me." He stood behind my portrait, then lowered his head again, nervously clutching the hem of a shirt. "I missed you so much. I painted you from memory." It's so similar. I didn't notice until I moved closer. He'd even drawn the tiny scar beneath my eye. His nose bridge was high and straight, his eyelashes thick and dense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ethan grabbed my hand almost like he was pouting. "Stop," counting 150 upper lashes, 55 lower lashes, not a single one missing. Whether in this life or the last, who could ever match Ethan's thoughtfulness and attention to detail? A warm current surged in my heart. I think I might be falling for Ethan. I held Ethan's hand. He wasn't just some delicate painter who only knew how to wield a brush. The pronounced veins on the back of his hand radiated a vibrant sense of strength. The contrast between his firm grip and my softer one complemented each other perfectly. A brilliant idea blossomed in my mind. Picking up a paintbrush, I gently traced it over the back of his hand and spoke in an unconsciously softened voice. "I can paint too," Ethan responded, with confusion. "Huh?" Perhaps my gaze was too direct. Even someone as dense as Ethan could guess what was on my mind. I blinked at him a few times, letting my eyes trail from his eyes to his lips, then to his ears, leaving a trail of crimson blush wherever they lingered. Ethan turned his head away, letting me pull him into the room. An hour later, he stumbled into the bathroom, face flushed, stammering, and covered in doodles. "I'm going to shower." I tossed the brush aside and chased after him. "Let us take a bath together." Perhaps frustrated by his last failure, Ethan became unusually enthusiastic after returning home. "My performance last time wasn't good enough. Let us try again." "But your performance was just fine last time." His naive cuteness perfectly matched his appearance. Cut it out, I'm going to the movies today, please. Ethan bit his lip, gathering his courage before leaning in to steal a quick kiss while I was distracted applying makeup. Seeing that I didn't hit him, he grew bolder. Ethan suddenly lifted me onto his lap, my eyes widening as I met his gaze, but before I could react, his warm, moist lips were already pressed against mine. His tongue moved like a clever little snake, playful and nimble as his kisses trailed down my neck in delicate patterns before finally circling one particular spot. Did you peek at the answers secretly? No, he knelt between my legs, looking up at me with innocent eyes. With 4 fingers raised to the sky, he vowed, I learned it in my dreams. Dreaming about it every night, Ethan nodded, then whined like a child. Haven, T had a good night asleep in ages. 12 in the days that followed, Ethan and I adopted a cat and a dog. The dog was named Chocolate, and the cat was called Pistachio. During the morning dog walk, Ethan complained naming a dog Chocolate is about as lethal as naming a child arsenic. I shot him a glare. Ethan immediately scooped up Chocolate. Come on, sweet Chocolate, whether you're Hershey S or Ferrero Rocher, Daddy will walk you every day and pick up your poop. Watching them leave, I set out food for the cat. In a way, I suppose this counts as having a complete set of children. On Monday, the doctor went to work. I accompanied Ethan to see the psychologist, and after a 2-hour conversation, we achieved very positive results. Everything was moving in a wonderful direction. With Ethan's persistent hints, he successfully moved into the master bedroom as well. At night, we lay in bed, watching a projection. I'm sorry. Nestled in his arms, I whispered softly, I shouldn't have accused you of being an irresponsible husband before. Truthfully, I haven't been a qualified partner either. I kept ordering you around, but rarely did anything for you. I took your wealth for granted as our shared marital property, when in truth, I never earned a single penny myself. I was selfish, hypocritical, and quick-tempered. When you were suicidal early on, I deliberately opposed you just to be contrary. As I spoke, I began to cry. Ethan said he loved me partly because I still carried some of the female protagonist's aura. There's no point denying it. Your recovery had nothing to do with me. I never made any sacrifices for you. I don't understand why you say you love me. Ethan turned me around and held me tightly. Pat your head, he said, then wiped away my tears with the sleeve of his pajamas. He spoke earnestly and firmly. Ava, I love you not because I need you to give me anything. I just love you. I enjoy being fully scheduled by you every day, cooking for you, seeing you finish all the food I make and smile with satisfaction makes me feel accomplished. You're completely clueless about housework, so you really need me. This feeling of being needed also makes me happy. Ethan patted my back. All right, sweetheart, loving someone doesn't have to be because of their strengths. Every little thing you do makes me feel so happy. You're an amazing partner. Loving someone just because they're extraordinary, I don't think that us love, it's admiration. And loving someone because they've done so much for you, that us not love either, it's gratitude. I lifted my head, wiping away tears. Really? Ethan nodded. The movie reached its end with soothing music accompanying the rolling credits as the lights gradually dimmed. Everything was just perfect in the dim light. Ethan's eyes sparkled and his warm presence enveloped me. His voice carried a mesmerizing tone. Take it off. I reached up and removed his glasses. The next moment, a warm sensation spread from my lips. My mind went blank, and in a daze I heard him say, open your mouth. A nimble tongue slipped between my lips, gliding over teeth and gums, leaving a faint tingling sensation. Ethan's fingers slid beneath my skirt, their tips burning as they traveled upward. Did you learn this from dreams too? Ethan muffled my words with his mouth. Her movements were practiced, yet her neck burned feverishly. The moon hung deep in the night, transforming the bedroom into a dark sea that roared and churned with the turbulence of 2 souls. 13 people often grow apprehensive at the pinnacle of happiness, fearful that the joy before them might be an illusion fragile enough to shatter at the slightest misstep, fearful that behind this happiness might lurk some colossal calamity. After Ethan and I held our belated wedding ceremony, the sense of unease grew even stronger. I was never meant to be part of this world. Sooner or later, I'll have to go back. As long as Ethan is saved, my mission will be complete, and I'll have to return. And if my mission remained unfulfilled, Ethan would still be plagued by psychological issues and choose to end his life. No matter how you choose, it's a losing game. A bad ending is hard to change. Ethan also noticed my recent low spirits, worried about leaving me alone during his business trip. He wanted to take me along. Considering how overwhelmed he was with the art exhibition preparations, I declined. Focus on your work, I said as he left. When the event's over, you can take me traveling. During Ethan's second international art exhibition, I received a notification from the system. The male lead's rescue progress reached 100, and the space-time channel opened, requiring me to evacuate promptly. At the moment of parting, I didn't know what to say. Our relationship wasn't as clean and detached as I had imagined. How could I just leave like this? Bonds had formed between us. If I left, what would happen to Ethan? What about Ethan? If I leave, don't worry, the mission is complete. The male lead will be fine. I still couldn't rest easy, but what if something happens to Ethan? The system sounded somewhat exasperated. Previous hosts had all left cheerfully, without a second thought. Who cares about this world? Anyway, if anything happens, I'll handle the after-sales service for you. The system kept urging me. I stood before the portrait Ethan had painted of me, my fingers trembling. I didn't dare to say a proper goodbye, nor could I promise him anything. I didn't dare to call him. In the end, I followed his old habit. When he was away on business, I wrote a note. Eat well, don't wait for me. I placed the note beside the meal ID prepared where he would see it at a glance. After completing the mission to save the male lead, the system took me away. 14. The real world remained unchanged. I was still an ordinary office worker, with my only interests being morning runs and sitting on the floor reading books at Barnes & Noble after work. One day I spotted a very old-fashioned novel in the corner. Neither its cover nor its title resembled anything from recent years. As if guided by some supernatural force, I opened it sitting on the floor. Reading memories came flooding back. Everything written in the book matched my time-traveling story exactly. I didn't have time to read, carefully flipping straight to the last page only to see this ending. Genius painter Ethan Grant developed depression after his wife's disappearance. After prolonged ineffective treatment, he committed suicide at age 27. Tears fell onto the paper as if all strength had drained from my body. How could this be? The mission was clearly successful. The male lead had already been saved. He shouldn't have committed suicide. I flipped to the front to check the author's name only to find it was listed as anonymous. The book's cover didn't even have a publisher's name. I grabbed my bag and went to the counter to buy it. The bookstore owner smiled and said to me, "This book isn't for sale. Someone left it here by mistake." "Alright, thank you." The boss smiled and handed me a tissue. Clutching the book, I walked through streets and alleys silently calling the system's name in my heart. I kept walking until I reached the seaside just as the sun was about to set. "System, come out already." Like a madwoman, I hugged the book while walking and crying, but the system remained unresponsive. I refused to give up, so every day after work I would take a walk by the sea. As time passed, I grew accustomed to carrying that book with me, the one without an author or publisher. The weather gradually warmed. Spring arrived once more, and seagulls flew in from the distance, stretching their feathers in the sunlight as they circled the sky. "System, come out," I shouted with countless disappointments weighing on me, and this time the system finally appeared. "Shut up, what do you want? Send me back. I need to rewrite the ending." The system lazily replied, "Your mission is complete. No need to go back. Wouldn't you rather enjoy your vacation here? There are no missions and no need to strategize with others." It yawned as if about to fall asleep again. "No. I want to go back in this book. Ethan still died. I need to go back and save him." The system checked previous save files and indeed found that Ethan, the male lead in the redemption story, had died. This was somewhat expected after all. The side story world continues progressing after the host leaves. He flipped through the plotline showing Ethan's life after my departure, then looked back at me. The system said, "The ending is now fixed. I can't let you enter this instance world anymore. How about this? I'll bring the male protagonist here for you. Just I can only bring his person. None of his social status or wealth will come with him. It's fine, just his person is enough. Turn around." When I turned back, Ethan stood before me, his eyes filled with joyful surprise. Ava, who loved money and handsome men, and Ethan with his low will to live finally overcame their flaws and embraced each other. The end.